We're going to map out the entire journey of an SAP S/4HANA asset management implementation. So whether you're deep in study mode for a certification or you're about to kick off a real-world project, this is for you. We're going to break it all down. So this is the big question, right? How in the world do you build a modern asset management system from scratch? It can feel, well, overwhelming. But the good news is SAP has a structured answer for this, a methodology that's basically our roadmap for the whole process. Okay, here's a quick look at what we're covering. We'll start with the main roadmap. Then we'll look at the public cloud path versus the on-premise and private path. After that, we'll check out the tools for customizing your setup and finish up with something super important, the simplification list. All right, let's jump right in. We're starting with the implementation roadmap. See, every successful project needs a plan. And in the SAP S/4HANA universe, that plan has a name, SAP Activate. So what is SAP Activate? The best way to think about it is like the official GPS for your implementation. It's not just some friendly advice from SAP, it's the standard methodology. It lays out all the phases, all the tasks, and all the deliverables you need to get from point A to point B and beyond. And the engine behind this whole thing is the roadmap viewer. Now, this isn't some dusty old PDF you download once and forget about. No way. This is a living, breathing guide. SAP is constantly updating it, so you're always working with the latest instructions, the latest project accelerators. Everything you need is right there and up to date. Okay, now let's talk about the different paths you can take. First up, the public cloud path. If there's one word you need to remember here, it's standardization, and that's all about using prepackaged processes. So in the public cloud world, everything is delivered through these things called scope items. You can think of them like pre-configured Lego blocks. Instead of building everything from scratch, you're picking and choosing the ready-to-run business processes your company needs. It's all about getting you up and running fast. And here are some of those building blocks in action. Now, if you're studying for a certification, pay close attention to that status column. See how older scope items like BH1 and BH2 are marked as deprecated? They've actually been replaced by newer, better processes like reactive maintenance. It's a perfect example of how the platform is always evolving. All right, so that was the public cloud. Now let's switch gears and look at the other main path, the on-premise and private cloud route. This one is all about flexibility. It's for companies that really need to tailor the system to their unique, specific ways of working. And here's the fundamental difference from the public cloud. On this path, you actually get a choice. You can still use those scope items we talked about as a great starting point for a fast deployment, or you can roll up your sleeves and dive into the classic implementation guide, the IMG, and configure everything manually. You get to decide. You'll probably recognize a lot of these scope items. They're similar to the ones for public cloud. But here's the catch. On this path, things like BH1, corrective maintenance are still available. Why? Because they serve as a really powerful foundation, a starting point that you can then build on with your own manual configurations and customizations. Okay, so you've picked your path, standardized or flexible. What's next? Well, now you need the right tools to actually tailor the system and get it just right for your business. And this is where we hit a real fork in the road when it comes to tools. If you're on the public cloud, it's pretty straightforward. You have one mandatory tool for everything, and it's called SAP Central Business Configuration. But if you're on the private cloud or on-premise path, your flexibility comes from something called business functions, which you basically switch on to add new features. Let's look at the public cloud side first. That Central Business Configuration tool, or CBC, walks you through a really clear three-step process. First, you define your scope. Then you set up your org structure, and finally, you get into the nitty-gritty of product-specific configuration. Simple as that. Now, on the other side of that fork, we have business functions. The best way to think of these is like feature packs that you can just switch on. It's almost like an app store for your system. Say you need some really advanced refurbishment capabilities, you just find the right business function, flip the switch, and boom, that new functionality is unlocked in your system. And here's a little pro tip for you. The naming convention is actually a fantastic cheat sheet. It tells you exactly what you're getting. If you see log_EM_CI in the name, the CI stands for continuous improvement, usually for the classic UI. See simplicity? That's going to be a modern web app. It's a really logical system that kind of demystifies the whole process. Okay, last section, and this one is absolutely crucial.
Before you start any implementation or upgrade, you have to check the travel advisories. And in the SAP world, that essential document is called the simplification list. You cannot skip this. So what is it? This document is basically your non-negotiable reading list. It tells you, in plain terms, what applications, transactions, and functions are gone, no longer supported in S/4HANA. Seriously, ignoring this is like trying to drive from New York to LA without a map, and without checking for any road closures. You're just going to get stuck. But here's the most important part to understand. It's not just about SAP taking things away. It's about strategic replacement. The whole point is to replace older, sometimes clunky functionality with something new, something simpler, something better. And the simplification list doesn't just tell you what's gone, it tells you what the new shiny successor application is. And here's why you have to pay such close attention. First, it is release dependent. That means the list for version 2023 is different from 2022. You have to check the latest version for your project. Second, the impact is huge. We're talking both business impact, how people do their jobs, and technical impact, like custom code that might break. It touches everything. So that leaves us with one final thought. As you can see, SAP is constantly evolving. So the big question for you is, how are you going to stay ahead of things like the simplification list? Because mastering S/4HANA isn't something you do once, it's a continuous journey. And keeping up with these changes, well, that's what separates the real experts from everyone else.